So today we'll be going in a little detail about yogas. And before I go into talking about some of the yogas in a horoscope, you'll have to know the architecture of how Jyotish is and how to understand yogas, for which we definitely need to know the constructs and the syntaxes that are available to us, because on the basis of that, you will be able to better understand the science. Okay, now when we look at the cosmic drama that is happening in the sky, we need to understand the context in which this universal creator plays its role, which means the cosmic theater is directed by the cosmic intelligence which is there, and the cosmic intelligence is Ishvara. Now, in every Jyotish element that you will see, we have something called as the nakshatras. What are the nakshatras? The nakshatras hold the seeds of the script for the play, which means all that needs to be played out, the script is there in the nakshatras, in this universe as a cosmic theater, and Ishvara as the cosmic intelligence who is directing this play. So the nakshatra has the script of the play. The Rashi is the stage where the drama unfolds. And grahas are the actors performing the script. And in that, there are different emotions, moods, which are set up in the drama, which is unfolding on the stage, which is Rashi. And the actors are playing it. And the different scenes and environment that is there is the bhavas. So then what is yoga in astrology? Yoga, dasha, and gochara. These are the three things that you need to know. They are all linked in analogy with the special plot and twists in the script is written by yoga. Dasha is the karmic timing when this actor leads and unfolds the drama. And gochara and the transits are the temporary stage lighting and the external conditions which make the play, like the music in the background, the lighting systems which are there, they can really dramatize that play. So now you know the entire context of this cosmic theater. So everybody today are so fascinated with the gochara, which means what is gochara? There are two things that you need to know in transits. Many astrologers don't even bring this into their understanding, is because they feel that they know what gochara is. Gochara, the word gochar always is with respect to a natal position of the moon. Sahachara means where each of those planets have an interplay with themselves, which means they aspect each other. They have an influence on each other. That is called grahachar. Gochar means it is always with respect to the position of the moon. Go, which means the cow. Chara, which means the movement. So all the planets, they are like going around the cow. The cow is like the moon. the emotional, the mind state. Now, you have to know that we know that there are the seeds of our karmas and the script of our play is in the nakshatras. The Rashi itself is the stage where this all drama is unfolding. The grahas are actors. So in this whole thing, every dasha, you become the lead. The dasha nath becomes the lead. And there are three kinds of karmas which are defined on the basis of this. The three karmas are called as that which is called as drida. The word Sanskrit word drid, which means unchangeable destiny. Drida karma is like the main storyline of the play that cannot be changed. Then we have something called as adrida karma, which means that is flexible destiny. So adrida karma is like improvisations within that play. That depends on the actor. So they can improvise, they have been given a script, but how they enact that script, some improvisation, that is a leeway, that is called adrida karma. And then there is something called as drida adrida karma. What does drida adrida means? Semi-fixed destiny. This is the most fascinating category because these are events destined to occur, but modifiable in intensity and form based on the conscious free will of the individual, which means the actor they know it is part of the play and it is destined, but they can modify it based on the intensity and the form can be changed. So, in this context that we're discussing about, what is Drida Karma? Drida Karma is your dashas. See, there are various fractals within these dashas. And dashas, there are Udu dashas, which is from the moon, and the nakshatra-based dashas are called as Udu dashas. And then there is Rashi-based dashas. So the moon and the nakshatra-based dasha, which is called as Udu dashas, that takes a lot of importance in Jyotish Shastra because they hold the seeds of our karmic script. So that unfoldment happens there in multiple layers. And that is why you have dasha, bhukti, antara. In south we call it dasha, bhukti, antara. North they call it dasha, mahadasha, antardasha, and pratyantardasha. So, so an horoscope that we see, a jataka, is not a prison of fate and destiny. It is a map of karmic possibilities. So it is your karmas which writes your script. It is the dasha, which is the time which calls the actor to come and play the script. It is the circumstances which change the stage sometimes of your performance. But it is your consciousness which is given by the higher intelligence, the cosmic intelligence, Ishvara, who gives you the directs the play and who has the ability to change and modify the semi-fixed destiny which is there. That's why there are remedies which are also given in Jyotish Shastra by the rishis, isn't it? Which means not everything, you're not a prisoner of fate, but there is free will. So if I have to now try to summarize all of this, let's take an analogy, because analogies usually help you to understand the context in which we are speaking much easier. Let's take the analogy of understanding Because what we are trying to do, we are trying to integrate the yogas, dasha, and gochara in creating the blueprint of your karmic events. So your blueprint itself is yogas. Dashas is the timing mechanism of the karmic unfoldment. And gochara is the environmental triggers. And the human free will is the conscious participation that is happening. So, in another context, if I have to give you an analogy of these three, yoga is the seed, dasha is the season, gochara is the weather. So, the yog which is there is defining what type of tree exists. The dasha, when the tree grows, and the gochar is showing the rain, the sunlight, the soil conditions, the storms, all of that is the gochar. But you know what is Dhrida Karma? The mango seed cannot produce apples. What is Dhrida Adhrida Karma? A tree may grow taller or shorter. That is Dhrida Adhrida. What is Adhrida Karma? Adhrida means that which cannot be decided by, it is the low probability of it manifesting is the fruits may be sweeter or fewer. So, do you understand what a horoscope shows or a jataka shows? A jataka shows what must happen, what may happen, and what can be changed. That is why Jyotisha is called as Karma Phala Darshaka Shastra, which means the science that reveals the fruits of your actions. So, to go deeper into yogas is the promise of the karma. Dasha is the moment when the karma awakens, and gochara is the circumstances through which the karma manifests. Let's take an analogy of, to explain this, a space mission analogy, because this will give you a better understanding of what we are trying to link here. So, a birth chart that you can see, which is Jataka, is, let us say, imagine there is a space mission to Mars. Elon Musk is already set on this mission that he wants to take the human race to the Mars and make it a livable planet. So in this context, let us say the space mission to Mars is your birth chart. So the birth chart itself is the mission blueprint. What are the yogas? The mission objectives. What are the dashas? When this should be launched, the launch window, when this mission has to be launched, and gochara, the space and the condition of the space and the weather out there. So what is Dhrida Karma here in this context? The Dhrida Karma is the mission objective that must occur. Example, the rocket launch should happen. The orbital insertion should happen in this context. And the Mars landing. These are fixed missions of the plan and they have to play out. They are like the dashas. What is the Adhrida Karma that we are talking about in this context? So that means there are adjustable operational decisions sometimes, which means sometimes the route has to be adjusted. There might be landing site details which need to be changed at the last moment. Some experimental choices would be changed after the launch, right? That depends on the circumstances. And then the Dhrida Adhrida Karma is the major mission phase that must happen but may vary, which means the Mars landing may be perfect. Then let's exactly obtain that objective. or it was very difficult, or it has been delayed, or landing may also have a crash landing. So that means the outcome is very unknown. Okay. So yogas write the possibilities of life. Dashas decide when these possibilities awaken, and Gochara determines the circumstances through which they manifest. I hope this is given you a good amount of understanding of what it is, or do you want to take another analogy to understand this? Let's take another very profound analogy. Let's take the analogy of Mahabharata, just as another example. So imagine the Mahabharata, which is your birth chart itself, is like the Kurukshetra, the war, the field where the war was happening. The field of Kurukshetra is your birth chart. What are yogas in this Mahabharata analogy? The destiny of the warriors who are participating in the war. What are dashas showing you in this Mahabharata analogy? When each warrior enters the battlefield. Gochara, the changing battle conditions and format of battle. Sometimes there can be an eclipse suddenly happening on the battlefield and somebody has to be killed that day. There has been so many ups and downs that can happen. So what is Dhrida Karma in this analogy? Mahabharata could not be changed. That is Dhrida Karma. Which means, for example, Bhishma should fall on the battlefield. Karna should die in the battlefield. Krishna would guide Arjuna. These are cosmic certainties of Mahabharata. So that means if you have powerful yogas that are inevitably manifesting, then it can create a kind of a yoga which is the probability of you to rise to power becomes very strong. What is Adrida Karma in this context? There might be many smaller events that happens on choices, which means what is the battle strategy for that day? Which warrior will face whom? How long will the battle last? All of this is Adrida Karma, which means this is like Gochara. And what is Drida Adrida? It's like yogas, which means some events were destined, but their form changed. Like the Pandavas had to win this battle. That was the context in which we start reading the Mahabharata, that there is going to be victory of the Pandavas and Krishna is going to support them. But the form, the detailing which is there, they suffered in exile. They had to undergo so many tragedies, which means all their children were killed in the battlefield. Okay. So who took forward all their children and their grandchildren were killed? Only one grandchild of Arjuna, Abhimanyu's son, carried forward the dynasty. Do you see that? What I'm saying? That is the yoga that they had in their charts. What was the dasha? The dasha said victory is sure, is certain. What is gochara? Whom am I going to fight today? Under what circumstances I have to fight? All of that. So is this giving you a broader perspective of how things play out in Jyotish? Because if you do not conceptualize this theme, then you will not really know what are we trying to learn. How are we going to interpret? That's why this is bringing together the entire script and it is storyboarding. All right. Now, yogas can be studied at multiple levels, but we need to know, like, why did we get a certain planet in a particular Rashi, in a particular nakshatra? That also is based on certain parameters which have been, it's a mathematical equation on the basis of which those planets' positions are already predetermined. Everything is based on karmas, we know that. But if you really want to know what is the past life karmas that were put into actions by us, which made us get a particular kind of a yoga in our chart. And there are also remedies based on that. Okay. So ultimately, the secret logic of how these yogas are and how they manifest will depend upon the combinations that are being formed, because there is a hidden potential which is always there. Because many of the people who want to learn about this is because they have a hidden curiosity. But you have to know that certain things will trigger certain yogas in your chart. See, every yoga is a past life action. Either it is rewarded or it is a punishment in one way. Because yogas are drida adrida, which means some may fructify, some may not fructify. So if somebody is coming and telling you, hey, look, I have so many great Raj yogas in my chart, but I don't see any of those, rise in power that is happening for me. I've been said that I have a fantastic chart, but I don't see anything. That's because the dashas, the timing and the flavor have not come in. And all those people who run after these transit videos, what is transits? They are only small time triggers. That's it. It is not something which is giving you high probabilities. But people with that low probabilities are fine. It gives them a peace of mind. It is more like for entertainment. People like to watch these transit videos. Though transits will can promise you anything in your chart without the yogas giving you the promise in the chart, and without the dashas coming in and fortifying those and making it certain, or the probability stake becomes very high, isn't it? So let's take certain yogas to see how these yogas are, because there are yogas which are past life rewards, or sometimes blemish that is there. There are bhanga. Bhanga means what? There is a yoga bhanga, which means there is a yoga which was almost created, but it is bhang, because what have you done? You have repeated the same error in two consecutive lifetimes. That is why it has come as a bhang, which means it could have been rectified, but you didn't. So there are so many such yogas which are there based on, like, for example, some of the yogas are created by exchange, which means whenever there is an Ashubha Parivartana, which means 6, 8, 12 houses and their exchange is happening, the meaning is there is disturbed mind that can be caused. Not all of them. There is also sometimes Bhanga yogas also which will come there. So in these Parivartana yogas, when there is exchange that is happening between these Dusthana houses, what is the past life that you have given, the actions because of which you have got these Ashubha yogas? Because these Ashubha Parivartana are saying in the past life you have harmed certain families and their existence. And in our sacred scriptures, we have said there are remedies for that. So if there is an Ashubha Parivartana yogas which are caused, you have to do Gayatri Sadhana, Gayatri Upasana. You have to do Tilla Homa. Tilla means black sesame seeds have to be put into fire, and you have to ask for forgiveness from your ancestors. Usually, ancestral worship is a great way to remove some of these parivartanas, which means there has been sometimes in your family certain people in your ancestry has taken certain decisions at that time which backfired for them, which didn't give them the results, and that's why you get those parivartana yogas. Okay, then there are sama parivartanas, which means mixed karmas are coming. Alternating behavior has been shown in your previous life. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you have been very harsh on people, sometimes too kind, sometimes too harsh. So there have been those mixed things that you have done. So, which they say if there is sama parivartana, which means between the third house, fifth house, or the seventh house, third house. Such kind of parivartanas are called sama parivartanas, where you have to do the remedy is only to go to your Kula Devata, which means your lineage deity, your protective deity that your ancestors have worshipped. Parivartanas. Mahaparivartana yogas are coming into your chart because of the good past life merits, like you have shown affection towards animals, you have given free medicines to people, you have done seva on voluntary basis, not even expecting anything in return, you have done great sadhanas in your life. Okay, and satsang, which means you have kept good company in your previous life. So it shows you Mahaparivartanas are usually when there is exchange between the trine and the Kendra lords, which means Kendra lords going into Kendras in exchange, trine lords going into trine lords going into Kendra bhavas. So these Mahaparivartana yogas are showing that you have Lakshmi's blessings. Lakshmi has blessed you. Now, there are also yogas in the chart where you show that you have to go to certain deities or devatas. Okay. Now, there is a yoga. I will talk about all the conditioning of the yogas is called as a Pushkala yoga. Pushkala, which means you have offered flowers to Vishnu in a temple. Okay. Now, what? Because in the past life you have given flowers to a Vishnu in a temple. In the present life, you have got this Pushkala yoga, which means you will blossom and your fragrance will be spreading far and wide, which means you will get a lot of fame. And because you have given, flowers, you'll get gems and jewels and wealth coming into your life. Okay. Somebody who has a Saraswati yoga, they have in their past life supported other people with their education. And that is why when Saraswati yoga comes, you become highly learned, highly worldly intellectual. So you have to continue in doing these. So which means if you have good yogas, it doesn't mean that you will enjoy all the merits of those yogas until the dasha comes. But until the dasha comes, if you start going against the goodness of that yoga, it will start creating problems when the dasha comes, which means it will not fructify and give you the complete benevolence that it needs to be giving. See, in general terms, Raj Yogas, you know what they signify? In the karmic text, I'm talking about, A Raj Yoga has come to you because you have fed people. Annadanam, which means you have distributed food and you have fed people. That is one thing. And you have built temples. You build temples or you have donated into a temple construction. That is why you have got Raj Yogas. These are royal yogas. Because of your charitable and philanthropic activities in the past life, you have got a Raj Yoga. Raj Yoga, if it is there, it has to give you authority and power and recognition amongst the people. But if you have to upkeep that Raj Yoga, then you have to keep doing the same activities that has given you that yoga, regardless of not expecting anything from you coming back from that. Okay. Then if you see in your karmic patterns, generally you will see sun and moon creating yogas in your chart because of the good life merits of your father and your mother. Okay. So most of the Chandra and Surya axis yogas are, it is connected to your mind and your wealth karma's reflections. More so. Because if sun is involved and moon is involved in the yogas, like for example, you see one of the most popular yogas is called as Kesari Yoga and Gaja Kesari Yoga. What is Gaja Kesari? Gaja Kesari can be there even with a pauper. A beggar could also have Gaja Kesari Yoga. A king can also have a Gaja Kesari Yoga. Which means if you see that a beggar has a Gaja Kesari Yoga, you're passing by that beggar, somehow you look at that beggar and you want to give them some alms or give them whatever you have in your hand. You want to give them food, you give them, open your wallet and you see I've got only $100 bill, so I'll give $100 because I don't have any change, but I want to give this person. So they have the ability. Gaja means elephant. Kesari means showing that like a lion. A lion is like the king of this forest. And elephants giving you suddenly what? When you sit on an elephant, only kings and warriors who used to fight huge big battles used to come sitting on elephants. Because you have a vantage point, because you are in an elevated platform. That means suddenly you got a recognition. Right? You are walking on a platform. Today elephants are like these big cars that you have. Huge cars. These are gas guzzlers that you see. And suddenly when you see such a big car coming across, you want to turn your head and you look at this. Who is this on this big car? So in the past, when an elephant used to go, they used to see who's sitting on that elephant. So the courage of a lion and the magnanimity of an elephant is usually seen. So it is a combination of Jupiter and Moon sitting in Kendras. When Jupiter and Moon are sitting in Kendras, it can give you this yoga, is what is said in the classical books. So it doesn't mean that Gajakeshari Yoga, which means amongst the beggars, is the king amongst the beggars. People like to associate with him and give alms to him. That's how the attraction you have. Right? So a beggar can also have Raj Yogas. That means he will be the leader amongst those beggars. Then there are certain yogas which you need to know it is formed by symbology of the planets. And this is how you have to even say the remedies that when you give for somebody, people just dole out remedies, which is very common remedies, they might not work for them. You have to see certain combinations and then the remediations have to be given. Let me explain this to you, how these yogas are created and which deities that you have to go and pray to based on these yogas in your chart. Say, for example, look at Sri Rama's chart. Let me share Sri Rama's chart here because there is a slight variation from what you generally see as per many people who take Rama's chart as per Valmiki Ramayana. Everything is perfect in what Valmiki has said. There is only one little blemish which is there, which is a flaw, which Ken Rao and his teacher or his guru that he calls astrological guru, Bhaskaranand has given him this chart. So if you look at this chart, the only difference that you see is all other planets are perfectly placed as it is given in Valmiki Ramayana. And those people who understand the Panchanga and the elements of Panchanga, they will know that it cannot be this chart. You have to know that Sun is not going to be in Aries. I've said this in many occasions as well. All other placements of Sri Rama's chart are perfect except the Sun. Because if Sri Ramachandra has to be born on Navami Tithi, and as per Valmiki Rishi, he says, Rama was born with moon in Punarvasu Nakshatra and Karkataka Rashi, which means Karka Rashi, Cancer sign. There is only one pada of Punarvasu Nakshatra which comes into Cancer. So if he is born on Navami Tithi, which is also what Valmiki Rishi says, then he cannot have an exalted sun sitting in Aries. The reason is Ashtami Tithi ends and Navami Tithi begins. Each Tithi is 12 degrees. So 8 times 12 is equal to 96 degrees. So the sun and the moon's distance when Navami Tithi begins has to be minimum 96 degrees. Minimum. After 96 degrees, Navami Tithi starts. So between 96 degrees and 108 degrees is Navami Tithi. So if you count from Aries to Punarvasu Nakshatra, it is only 93 degrees and 20 minutes. Punarvasu is Aries 30 degrees, Taurus 30 degrees, Gemini 30 degrees, plus 3 degrees 20 minutes of the first Navamsha Pada is Punarvasu. So those people who understand that means the sun has to be in Pisces. And I agree with what Ken Rao and his astrological guru Bhaskaranand has mentioned. Now, if you know that this chart that I've shown you, in this chart, I've also said in Sri Rama's chart, Saturn has to be retrograde because Saturn is in the 8th house from the sun. So when Saturn is transiting, 6, 7, 8 house from the sun, or even 9th, it can be in retrogression. 7th and 8th and 6th, 100% they are in retrogression when from the sun. So he has a retrograde Saturn. Now from this chart, what are you seeing? A retrograde Saturn is aspecting Mercury. And a retrograde Saturn, because of how retrogression works, it will also have an influence from the previous house, which is Saturn retrograde is sitting in the 4th bhava for Sri Rama, and it will have an aspect from Virgo also on that Sun and Venus. Okay. So if you have to know that the combination in a chart, if you want to understand, Sri Rama, the combination is twofold. One, you will never see Rama without his bow and his arrow. So that is what gives him Maryada Purushottama, which means he is Gambhira, he is serious, and he's got a bow and an arrow. You will never see any of pictures of Sri Ramachandra without the bow and arrow. That is his insignia, right? In astrology, you'll have to know that which planet is associated with the bow. Anybody? You can probably comment that in the comment section. What is your guesswork? Which planet is connected with the the bow? See, do you know how a bow is created? You take a bamboo stick or you take some instrument and you bend it, and it is under constant stress because of a string is then attached to it. So it is kept in that bent mode because of the string. So there is going to be stress on that, and that is how it becomes a bow. So what comes under stress? Which planet is always under stress and distress, or is under some burden, or is tied to something? It is Shani, Saturn. So those people who want to learn astrology should know all of these things. What? Symbology has planets. Every planet has a symbology. So bow is the symbol of Saturn. Saturn is about who follows traditions, customs, who follows his family's values, and he upholds the values of his forefathers because that is a good Saturn. So it's a retrograde Saturn for him in his chart, in Sri Rama's chart. Is my audio cracking, or is my voice cracking? Audio is not cracking. My voice can crack because I have a bad cold. Okay. So Saturn has to be there because that is one thing that is shown. Which planet is associated with an arrow? Do you know what planet is associated with an arrow? The arrow is Mercury, Buddha. And the sharp tip of the arrow is Mars, which can be poisoned, which can have Rahu or Mars. If it is a poisoned arrow, it has got Rahu. If it is very sharp, and if it has a lot of blades in it, Mars. Metallic, Mars. But otherwise, the slim body of that is the symbology of Mercury, Buddha. So two things have to be there. A retrograde Saturn, Sri Rama's chart is aspecting his Buddha, seventh aspect. So that is his insignia. But there is another thing that you have to know when it is Sri Ramachandra. That means he is born in a solar dynasty king. He is a Surya Vamshi, solar dynasty king. His lineage is in the solar dynasty. So sun has to play a very important role there. So whenever you see any kind of combinations and dashas that you're going with Sun, Mercury, Saturn, or Saturn, Mercury, Sun, however those combinations can give you Sri Rama's interest, or those people who go Saturn, Mercury. Mercury in general in astrology, in remediations, is Vishnu avatars. Now, if I have to take Shri Krishna, okay, there it is, he no longer has a bow and arrow, but the same thing will become his Shankha and Chakra, and instead of the sun, it would be moon. Mercury is Vishnu avatars. Why Saturn has to play an important role in Krishna's chart? If you see Sri Rama and Sri Krishna, Sri Rama has a blue color skin. That's what they say. He's shown usually as a light sky blue, light sky blue. Krishna, darker tone of skin. So Shani has to have an aspect. Why Sri Ramachandra has bluish, but slight bluish is because his Lagna is Cancer. Moon is setting in Cancer with Jupiter. So he has to have a glow, an auric field which is very strong, aspected by Mars. So are you understanding how we are looking at these yogas and combinations? I'll give you one more example. What about the same avatara, but I need to see Narasimha avatara? So in Narasimha avatara, Saturn will not be important. Mars will be important. Mars aspecting Mercury, and he's come to protect Prahlada, the young boy. Mercury becomes the young boy there. So we are creating things on the fly by mixing and matching. For example, another thing. If somebody is born on a full moon and new moon, you know what is that combination called, the sun and the moon combination, in whatever format, however they are linked, either through their nakshatra, or through the planets association, they generally show the blessings that are coming through Uma Maheshwara. Moon is Uma Devi, Parvati, and sun shows the blessings of Maheshwara, Mahadev. The same sun, when it conjoins with Venus, what happens? It is Lakshmi Narayana. The same sun becomes Lakshmi Narayan. Surya Narayan with Lakshmi. Or these combinations also create the Ashtalakshmis, the 8 divine forms and manifestations of Mahalakshmi. Because she governs the 8 directions also. So the 8 directional regions are also under her, because who are these directional regions? They're called as Dikpalas, Lokapalas. In Buddhism, they call it Lokapalas. We call it Dikpalas. Dikpalas are 8, but they have the blessing of each. The Lakshmi is behind them, is the one who is providing the resources to them to pass it on to us. So you need to know the combinations. Venus is Lakshmi. If I bring Sun with Venus, Sun is victory, invincible victory. That is why she's called as Vijaya Lakshmi. Venus combined with Moon. Moon is food, so she is the one who gives Dhanya Lakshmi, food grains. Venus combination with Mars. Mars is courage, showing valor or courage in the battlefield. She's called as Dhairya Lakshmi or Veera Lakshmi. Without Veera Lakshmi, you will never be able to be successful in any enterprise that you are showing. So Venus-Mars combination is very important in entrepreneur's chart, because they have shown the courage, and that is why they are rewarded. Are you seeing how I'm bringing these contexts? Venus with Mercury coming together. Mercury is education. She is called as knowledge, Vidya Lakshmi. Venus coming with the Jupiter. Jupiter is children, growth, expansion. That's why she's called as Santana Lakshmi. Then when she is exalted as a Venus or in her own sign, she's called as Aishwarya Lakshmi. Aishwarya, all round success. When she conjoins with the Rahu, Venus conjoined with Rahu, this yoga is called as Dhana Lakshmi. People are very much about Dhana Lakshmi. They see that Dhan, Dhan, Dhan. That is Rahu's materialization, manifestations with the Lakshmi. When Venus conjoins with Ketu, she gives you fame and recognition in the society. She's called as Gaja Lakshmi. You might have seen Lakshmi sitting in between with two elephants with the pots showering water over her on the backdrop. That is Gaja Lakshmi. You need that for fame and recognition. Reputation, maintaining your reputation. See, if naturally you see certain yogas, you don't really need to know whether you have that yoga is good or bad in your chart. Say, for example, I've always said this to many people. If you are naturally attracting children coming to you, children are getting attracted to you, they are coming to you, they want to play with you, they want to discuss with you, talk to you. You have your Santana Lakshmi is already activated. That is why these people become great teachers. Because they feel that I can open up with this teacher, I can discuss with them. Similarly, that means your Jupiter has well placed. That's why you're attracting children who come to you very easily. If you're attracting animals who come and attracted to you, that means your aura is good. That means Saturn is good in that. When Saturn combines with Venus, you know what is she called? Adi Lakshmi. Adi means the first one to come out. Amongst all of these sisters, Adi Lakshmi is the eldest. Adi means she's Jeshta. She's the chief. All the Lakshmis listen to Adi Lakshmi. So Venus Saturn combination in your chart, yoga is created, but can you maintain the status of a union leader or a society? You have that recognition and you have to maintain that, right? Similarly, when you go into Nadi, the same combinations are used and these yogas have been set. Venus is marriage. Saturn is longevity of marriage. Because Saturn is the Karaka for longevity. So if they are well placed and they are aspecting and they're creating exchange or associations are good, then that yoga will give you long-term settlement in marriages. I'll ask you one more question. There are so many ways of understanding yogas in the chart. You can also start going through the seed of the karma and then looking at the stage and then creating yogas from that. Let me give you an example. Pushya Nakshatra, everybody knows it is about nourishment, nurturing, caregiving, all of that. But do you know one more thing? The combination which is created by Pushya Nakshatra is Pushya's Nakshatra Lord in Vimshotri Dasha is Shani, Saturn. It falls in Cancer sign. Who is the Lord of Cancer? Moon. So Saturn Moon will form a yoga which is called as a Vish Yoga. Do you know this? Yoga of Saturn and Moon combination is called as a Vish Yoga. But Vish Yoga people will not be, it's not venom. You have to know how to control your venom is the main thing. That is why one of the main yogas in the Panchanga, which is caused by Pushya Nakshatra is called as a Vishkumbha Yoga. Have you heard of Vishkumbh? Kumbha means pot. Vish means a poisoned pot, which means a pot full of poison or venom. That doesn't mean that this yoga will make you poisonous, but these people could be very nourishing, nurturing. Sometimes what is the poison? Anger could be the poison, jealousy could be the poison, pride could be the poison, ego could be the poison, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. This is your poison. So these are yogas are created because we have to understand that. Right? So if you look even from Ardra Nakshatra, Pushya Nakshatra falls in the third Nakshatra. Ardra, Punarvasu, Pushya. Third. If you know that the third bhava, third house, is the throat of the human body. What does Rudra keep in his throat? Halahal, the poison. That's why he's called the blue-throated god. Blue. Where is the blue color coming? Saturn. Sometimes your yogas are not operating. I give some simple examples. You keep potted plants at home. Keep some potted flowers inside your home. If they're constantly dying, that means the yogas are not fructifying for you. People always in India keep a tulsi, a holy basil plant inside or outside their house, outside mostly, and they pray to it. But if a tulsi plant is never surviving in India, I'm not talking about US, because you know what, US climatically, tulsi cannot grow. Many people have tried, it works for certain people it doesn't. Depends on the weather conditions. But if plants are constantly dying inside your house, what is an indication? Prana Shakti is low. When the prana is low, prana means the life force energy is low, then it cannot power your yogas in the chart. You have to have, ultimately, what are we? We are all nothing but frequencies and vibrations. We are resonating at different frequencies, and if those frequencies die down easily, then it is like a collapsing. In quantum physics, it's called a collapsing wave. Do you know one more theory of quantum theory? Quantum theory says if two objects, you bring them together and they come in contact, then you can take them as far apart, even millions of light years away. You turn one of these particles, the other particle also is going to rotate, as though distance doesn't really matter. So this whole concept that we are talking about is very popularly called as quantum entanglement. Right? So it means sometimes we are quantum entangled with certain entities, animals, trees, birds, or even people. Let me give you an example of quantum entanglement from Ramayana. Hanuman, when he was entrusted with the job of taking that leap, the great leap to go to Lanka from the shores of southern part of India, Bharat, he was in two minds. He doesn't know, will I be able to take that leap? It's a huge distance. I don't know. So, as a quantum entanglement, and to remove that entanglement, there was a bear who was called as Jambavanta, Jambavan or Jambavanta. Jambavanta had to remind him that when he was young, he leapt to the sun, thinking that it was a fruit. So this is nothing. When you have taken that leap of faith to go to the sun, so this small jump is nothing for you, Hanuman. You have done this in the past. Sometimes we need to come in association to activate certain yogas, certain people come into our life. Your walk-inness, maybe teachers, children, aunts, uncles, parents, anybody as friends. But we need such people to come to activate the yogas. They come, they activate, after that they probably don't come in your life. They move away from their life, from your life. But because they have come and they are quantum entangled, you, whatever happens in their life, you would see as though there is a mirror thing. This is the concept what we say of yogas is also the same thing how you see with what the Western world calls it. We don't have that word. Flames, twin flames. This is a Western concept. But you know what? Twin flames are always been there even in Indian context. What is a twin flame? Which means who is your perfect match for you? If you see all of these contexts, you will know that. So, what is your twin flame? So, if you are born in a particular phase of the moon, the opposite, exact opposite phase of the moon is your twin flame because they complete you and they make you a full moon. Understand? Shri Krishna was born on Krishna Ashtami. Radhashtami is also celebrated, but she was born in a Shukla Paksha Ashtami. But they were not born in the same year. In Ramayana, we know that she's elder to Krishna in age. 2 different years, but we attract the same kind of equation. Rama was born in Shukla Paksha Navami. Sita was also born on Navami Tithi. They become a twin flame anyway. Sita Navami is celebrated. Radha Ashtami is celebrated. So that means yogas means we come with certain creative pairs, or sometimes it's not pairs, it can be multiple things. Also, there is yogas created between Panchanga elements. That's also called as yoga. We call it Tithi Vara yogas, Tithi Nakshatra yogas, Vara Nakshatra yogas, because there the elements are pairing with each other. And because of those pairings, there are various yogas have been given the names. Sarvartha Siddhi Yoga, Vara Nakshatra Yoga. If moon comes into Pushya Nakshatra on a Thursday, then it is called as Guru Pushamrita Yoga. That means Amrita Yoga should come with Guru Pushya Yoga. So Guru Pushya Yoga, which means on the Vara of Guru, it is Nakshatra of Pushya. That's considered very auspicious. Ravi Pushamrita Yoga, which means Amrita may not be there, but it is Ravi Pushya Yoga can be caught when it is a Sunday and the moon is in Pushya Nakshatra. So, which means Varas and Nakshatras also create yogas. So, for all of you, it has been some traditions, what they say. You should always get a piece of gold or precious metal whenever it is Pushya Nakshatra, because it has the ability to multiply things. It is so whenever it is Ravi Pushya or Guru Pushya, both are connected to gold. If you see some communities, they buy even a small piece of gold. But today, I think it has become so expensive. Needless to say, you can buy silver or you can buy a book. If you are not the kind of person who likes, then buy a book that you would like to read. The best day to bring a Bhagavad Gita is on Pusha Nakshatra day, because then it becomes a part and parcel of your yoga of your life. So, if you want to learn more about yogas, there is a book by B.V. Raman. I think it's very popular. 300 yogas which have been. So you can learn that from there. But you need to know that certain yogas create certain great deities that you can go. For example, if Mars and Rahu are forming a yoga in your chart, yoga means some kind of association which is there, link which is there. Then you will have to go to, in the south, they say you have to go to Durga in the north, and south, especially if you go to Kerala, they say Bhadrakali. Okay. Now, Moon Mercury combination. Moon is a young child. Mercury is Vishnu Avatara. Moon is Chandravamshi, lunar dynasty. So it is, if Saturn is not involved, Saturn is the grown-up, mature Krishna, but Moon Mercury, you have to keep a baby Krishna at home, Nanda Gopala, with a cradle, a swing. That's how we actually celebrate Janmashtami at home. Sun Rahu. Sun Rahu is associated with a fierce form of, if Sun Rahu combination, when the Sun Rahu come, eclipses times. Sun and Rahu are conjoined very much. Otherwise, Sun and Rahu can be together in a Rashi or in a Nakshatra together. In the tradition, they say you have to worship Lord Sarabeshwara, who is a great form of Lord Shiva, which was invoked when they had to subdue Narasimha Avatar. He took the form of Sarabeshwara, very fierce form. Where they say in his wings, which is like he was lion, elephant, mix, huge creature, and his wings became Kali and Durga. And they had to suppress Narasimha, because Narasimha Avatar became uncontrolled after killing Hiranyakashipu. So there had to be a force which would come and suppress that, and the only force which could do that is Sarabeshwara. Now, this is another very important yoga which is there in most people's chart. What is that yoga? Sun and Mercury. Those people who have Sun and Mercury, it is called Buddha Aditya Yoga. But that yoga can also, people have to go to Surya Narayana, is Vishnu Narayana, or you have to listen to what is called a Satya Narayana Katha, which means you have to listen. If you listen to Satya Narayana Katha, these people who have Sun Mercury, you will see in few years your life becomes, harmonizing in your life. Harmony comes into your life. If you are a seeker of peace and going after that, then harmony will definitely be coming into your life. If you are listening to Satyanarayan Katha, even if you share the Katha, one of the stories with other people, also you get blessings, is what it said. Okay, then Saturn Rahu combination, yogas. It is the yoga for Bhairava. Especially it is called as Chanda Bhairava. If you have Saturn Rahu combinations in your chart, you should also, in the traditions, in the local customs, they say you'll have to go to Ayyappa Swami. Ayyappa is called as Harihara Sutta, which means he is the offspring of Vishnu and Shiva. Hari, Hara. Suta, son of Hari and Hara. But Bhairava, especially there are Ashta Bhairavas, 8 forms of Bhairavas. So in the course, I will discuss about what combinations will give you. There is Krodha Bhairava, Chanda Bhairava, Unmatta Bhairava, Kapala Bhairava. So all of these, amongst that, who is the main Bhairava? The Bhairava of time, who is called as Kala Bhairava. Okay. So definitely Saturn will play a very important role in Kala, because the word Kaala, Ka means Brahma. A is Vishnu. La is Laya or Samhara Rudra. So Kala is Kaala. It is Brahma, Vishnu, and La stands for Pralaya. Pralaya. Laya, Samhara. Destruction and dissolution. So everything in time is created, preserved, and is dissolved. So who is the main lord for that? Bhairava. Where does he stand guard? He stands guard as the city of Varanasi. He is the Kotwal. He is the main Kshetrapala, the guardian of the city of Varanasi. Also, he is called the guardian of the city of Ujjain. 2 cities where there are Jyotirlingas. One is to Kashi Vishwanath, Vishwanath, Universal Lord. And other one is Mahakaleshwar. So similarly, if Ketu and Venus have a combination in the chart, Ketu will signify Ganapati. There are various forms of Ganapati. There are 32 forms of Ganapati. Out of which, when Ketu and Venus come together, in the traditions, they say you have to specifically pray to a form of Ganapati called Vallabha Ganapati. Same. If there is a combination of Ketu, Saturn, and Venus, Ketu, Saturn, and Venus, this is called as a Sannyasi Yoga. Sannyas Yoga can be given Sadhu Yoga. That such sadhus also have to worship a form of Ganapati which is called as Uchishta Ganapati. Uchishta means leftover or remnants of something of food which is left over. There are certain tantric sadhanas where sometimes people keep food in the mouth and then they recite the mantras. That is why it is called Uchishta. Or if you come to Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, certain temples have a ritual where after you have had food on your plantain leaf, nobody removes the plantain leaf and the leftover food is there. People roll and they do the pradakshina of the temple. That's another seva that they do. On those remnants of food which was there, people have eaten, they have left, people then roll on those plantain leaves. That's a way of trying to say this, let all of these waste not attach to me. So that means I'm detached. I'm not afflicted by any of this thing that is there. So that form of Ganapati, which many people do not know, is the form of Ganapati which even Krishnamurti, who's famous for KP astrology, Krishnamurti Paddhati, is also supposed to have given this Vidya, and he claims in his book by Uchishta Ganapati, which is associated with Kritika Nakshatra, Agni. Okay. Anyway, so there are such yogas we will definitely be discussing in this course. And if you're interested, there are so many such yogas. Definitely read the book. As I said, there are 300 different yogas which are created. Now, what I've given you is only this, but you'll also see there are yogas created by numbers. Numbers, numerology plays a very important role in creating yogas. And if you know what is your secret frequency, today you can start, you have frequency generators. You can start listening to those frequencies to create the right vibrations for you, for that yoga activation. Because ultimately, everything in life is a frequency. We are also a frequency, right? We are vibrating at a particular frequency. That's why people identify us with a unique signature. Okay. So, like for example, a solfeggio frequency. 174. So, in that 174, 1 is a number which is associated, you can say a nakshatra, 7 is the Rashi, and 4 is the planet or uh, the padas. I'll discuss this more in the class. Because if I start explaining this, I'll take another half an hour, but I will not have time for that. Because you need to know that each of the nakshatras resonate with a particular number. And those numbers are very unique. If you understand nakshatras, then you will understand how those frequencies can be created. So if you look at all the creation numbers are in the solfeggio frequencies is 174, 417, 741. These are all Brahma. These are all the creative angle. Then you have 258, 852. Such frequencies which start with 2, 5, and 8 is Vishnu. Then we have 369, 963. These hertz are all Rudra. So whatever we need to dissolve, we have to go to the different frequencies. So if you have a frequency 432, 4 is Brahma, 3 is Shiva, and 2 is Vishnu. So that's why the most popular frequency that everybody usually wants to listen to today, music and other things, is 432 hertz. Because it has a component of Brahma, a component of Rudra, and a component of Vishnu. Ultimately, whatever we study is nothing but a mathematical code. We are only trying to see in the front, we are saying these are planets. But the universe is mathematics. It's all about permutation and combinations. For which, if you want to know more about this, you'll have to go into the Vargas. If you go to the Vargas, you will get a huge ton loads of information. Okay. So that's for another day.